the other animals. This is nothing more nor less than the capitulation of man. All in all, I grasp my narcissism with both hands, and I reject the vileness of those who want to turn man into a machine. If the debate cannot be opened up on a philosophical level, i.e., the fundamental demands of human reality, I agree to place it on a psychological level. In other words, the misfires, just as we talk about an engine misfiring. And I'm interested in these misfires in ways that kind of connect up with somebody who we obsessively had to encounter again and again in performance studies, namely J.L. Austin, right? And the way he talks about the misfire in his theories of performative utterance and language. Here's another part of Fanon. It is said that the black man likes to palaver. And whenever I pronounce the word palaver, I see a group of boisterous children raucously and blandly calling out to the world. Children at play insofar as play can be seen as an initiation to life. The black man likes to palaver, and it is only a short step to a new theory that the black man is just a child. Psychoanalysts have a field day, and the word orality is soon pronounced. But we have to look further. We cannot hope to cover the fundamental question of language here in its entirety. The remarkable research by Piaget has taught us to distinguish stages in its emergence. And the studies by Gelb and Goldstein have demonstrated that the function of language operates by steps and degrees. Here we are interested in the black man confronted by the French language. We would like to understand why the Antillian is so fond of speaking good French. And another one. And this is a pretty long one, okay? And these are all excerpts from a chapter in Black Skin, White Mask called The Negro in Language. By appealing, therefore, to our humanity, to our feelings of dignity, love, and charity, it would be easy to prove and have acknowledged that the black man is equal to the white man, but this is not our purpose. What we are striving for is to liberate the black man from the arsenal of complexes that germinated in a colonial situation. Monsieur Achille, a teacher at the Lycée du Parc in Lyon, cites a personal experience during his lecture. It is a universally familiar experience. Few black people living in France have not experienced it. As a Roman Catholic, he took part in a pilgrimage. Seeing a black face among his flock, the priest asked him, "Why have you left Big Savannah and why you come with us?" Achille answered, I'll repeat that, okay? "Why have you left Big Savannah and why you come with us?" Achille answered most politely, and in this story, it wasn't the young deserter of the savannah who was the most embarrassed. Everyone laughed at the exchange and the pilgrimage continued. But if we stop to reflect, we realize that the priest's usage of pidgin calls for several remarks. One, I know black people. You have to talk to them kindly. Talk to them about their country. Knowing how to talk to them, that's the key. Now here's what you have to do. This is no exaggeration, Fanon writes. A white man talking to a person of color behaves exactly like a grown-up with a kid, simpering, murmuring, fussing, and coddling. It's not just one white person we have observed, but hundreds. And our observations were not limited to one category. Insisting on a fundamentally objective attitude, we studied such behavior in physicians, police officers, and foremen on work sites. People will tell us, forgetting our aim, that we could have focused our attention elsewhere and that there are whites who do not fit our description. Speaking to black people in this way is an attempt to reach down to them, to make them feel at ease, to make oneself understood and reassure them. Consulting physicians know this. 20 European patients come and go. Please have a seat. Now what's the trouble? What can I do for you today? In comes a black man or an Arab. Sit down, old fellow. Not feeling well? Where is it hurting? When it's not, you not good? 2, to speak gobbledygook to a black man is insulting, for it means he is the gook. Yet we'll be told there is no intention to willfully give offense. Okay, But it is precisely this absence of will, this offhand manner, this casualness, and the ease with which they classify him, imprison him at an uncivilized and primitive level, that is insulting. If the person who speaks to a man of color or an Arab in pidgin does not see that there is a flaw or a defect in his behavior, then he has never paused to reflect. At a personal level, during certain consultations, I have felt myself lapsing. So what I'm interested in and what I'm trying to work through today is Fanon's absolutely righteous, absolutely sharp analysis of the structure of insult by way of the absence of an intention to insult. That a certain bad faith usage of speech, of pidgin, produces at the level of the relation between what I'll call in this work between, well, you could say the black and the white, but I prefer the terms blackness and anti-blackness. Okay. But by the same token, what I also want to do is to take up the question that emerges in Linebaugh's work by way of Calvet's analysis, by way also at the same time of a formulation that Fanon makes in one of the first quotes I made regarding the dual dimensionality, the two dimensions of the black. One in relation to the anti-black, one in relation to blackness. Okay? At which point, what's at stake is to talk about both the bad faith usage of pidgin on the one hand, within the context of what they used to call race relations, and something like what we might call the ongoing production of language as instrument, as vehicle, in terms not only of its relation to the task of communication, but also in terms of the way in which language constitutes the chance and the possibility of a whole new understanding of the beings who, let's say, in a certain sense could be said to mark themselves and define themselves by the act or the process of what a colleague of mine at Duke calls languaging. Right? Okay. Now I'm probably going to repeat myself just now. You ever had that thing where sometimes you think what you're getting ready to read is not as clear as what you could just say, and then at the same time you have to see, then you say, you know, so that's a preface to what I was going to read, and then you read it, it's like, oh, I guess I did. Well, anyway, we'll see what happens. You know? Sometimes it doesn't hurt to say something again. I want to push ahead by way of Fanon's concern with the pathological desire to speak good French in its relation to the normal desire to be spoken to in good faith. A speech that signifies the speaker's being absolutely for the other. A speech that initiates reciprocity. Speech in bad faith moves in the wake of a refusal to listen, a refusal to acknowledge and recognize, therefore, that speaker's capacity to be for the one to whom he speaks. Such being for can be spoken of in terms of contemporaneity, implying a shared spatio-temporal frame, transcendental aesthetic, or body schema. But I think it is better elaborated in terms of the differentiation of any given spatio-temporal frame, the shared and social construction of an immanent aesthetic, within the constantly shifting schemata of a fleshly historicity. For now, let's concentrate on Fanon's analytic of speech in bad faith. Fanon's primary concern is with the white usage of pidgin, its effects on privileged, and I put that in quotes, and we can talk about that, right? Okay. In other words, one of the things, let's say that one of the hallmarks of what used to be called in a certain kind of unproblematized way privilege, with regard to at least black social life, is that privilege is something that we associate with the relatively greater access to the presence of white folks. Which, if that's the case, given the absolute violence of these relations, it behooves us to consider that what it is that we had used to call privilege might better be understood as underprivilege. But more generally, it allows us, I think, in these really interesting ways to reconsider just that entire relationship between privilege and underprivilege on a general level. Like my students at Duke are deeply, deeply committed to themselves as being to themselves as being privileged. Like they tell you that with like a kind of a smile, not even embarrassment, but almost like the smile that attends being honest. You know, that kind of smile you get when you tell the truth that